Oh, hey, hello there. Welcome back. So I've been making lists of topics for potential videos. I've actually cobbled together a lot of ideas in list form over the last few years, but there's a lot of ideas that have not been made into videos, mainly because I think they sound like they wouldn't be interesting enough or wouldn't warrant the whole dedication of a video just for one little silly idea. So I thought what we'd do is go through a little list of ideas. We'll talk about them briefly, and you guys, your job will be to, if you like any of these ideas and you think I should expand upon them further and make full videos about them, drop a note down below in the comments section. And I'd love to hear your feedback. Let's get some of these ideas off this paper and into YouTube so we can enjoy them, okay? Stay tuned. And by the way, a lot of these ideas came from you viewers dropping notes down below, comments in my videos. So you guys are the ones to blame for this. Thank you very much, by the way, for these ideas. So the first idea is using your brain more to plan sentences with typewriters. They change your thinking system. In other words, the fact that you can't easily correct and doing so interrupts the flow state of creativity means that you oftentimes plan the sentence a little bit more carefully before you actually put ink to paper, right? So it changes your thinking system of how you write, considering or compared against either typing on a word processor where you can quickly delete, and retype, or by hand where you have more time to think it through as you're writing. So that's an interesting concept. I think there's some validity to it. If you guys would like me to make a full video about that, I'd love to hear your comments about it. Someone else made a mention of pica versus elite size typeface for writers. And they said that it is of great importance with regard to line length and page word count. And of course it would be if you figure you have like a 9-inch platen, let's say an 8.5-inch writing line. So pica is 85 characters and elite would be, 105 or whatever it is. So yeah, the line length definitely is affected by the typeface size and therefore the page word count, and maybe you have a preferred typeface that you like to type your manuscripts in. I'm assuming that in the classic era of typewriting for writers, like in the mid-20th century, I'm assuming pica, the 10 character per inch, was probably used more often than elite. If you want me to do a video about that, though, go ahead and drop a note down below. I happen to have 3 daisy wheel typewriters. An Olympia, I think it's a Sears branded, made by Nakajima. I have a Smith Corona daisy wheel and a Brother daisy wheel. And it would be fun to compare all 3 of those from different eras of the 1980s. Another idea, comparing daisy wheel typewriters with type bar electrics and thermal typewriters. All 3 of these categories are electric powered, but they do things differently. The amount of noise they make, daisy wheel typewriters and type bar electrics make pretty much the same kind of noise. Some electric type bar machines are manual carriage returns, so they're a little quieter in that respect. Thermals are the quietest, but they have their own limitations. Hey, we could talk about that. It might be an interesting topic. There's another one, is my most recent daisy wheel typewriter was with a Brother, and I discovered there's certain modes that I like to set it to right after turning it on, because when you cycle the power to it, it defaults back to the factory settings. So I like to set up certain things about it for my particular likes when I first turn it on. For instance, I turn off the correction dictionary so it doesn't beep at me every time it thinks I misspelled a word. Just one little hint there. So if you want me to make a video about the Brother typewriter, how I set it up for my use, let me know. So I have 2 Olympia medium-sized manual portable typewriters, an SM3 from the early 1960s and an SM9 from 1978, the second to the last year they made the SM9. So these 2 typewriters represent almost like bookends in the whole SM series. There are considerable differences in the typing experience between the 2. That might be an interesting video. So one of my viewers, who I'm a pen pal with, we were talking about journal writing. And I was commenting that in the old days, in fact, down on the shelf down there is a bunch of composition books that I used to handwrite in composition books as my main form of writing. I thought at the time, and maybe still do, that I was a better writer back then, writing by hand. But on the other hand, I was also writing a lot of essays, kind of like creative essays and kind of essays about photography that were full of what you might call amateur art speak about photography. A lot of theorizing, just writing stuff for myself. At the time, I thought it was a better writing, and I did write in my blog more prolifically. I did a lot more writing by hand and typed into the computer blogging than typecast a scanned typewritten page. So anyway, all of this to say, maybe, I'm pretty sure there is, a difference in writing quality between handwriting and typewriting, and I'm open to the possibility that either one of those could be better than the other, or maybe they're just different. Anyways, that might be an interesting topic. What do you think? Another topic is, if you're interested in sifting through the 340-something videos I've made about typewriters, there's a lot of videos, a lot of topics. I've organized playlists. If you go to the main Joe Van Cleve channel, and there's a link for playlists. If you go in there, you'll see a bunch of typewriter-related playlists, like typewriter maintenance, American typewriters, European, Japanese, typewriter video series, etc., etc., etc. A lot of different categories that might help you find the particular topic you're looking for. So go into the playlists and dig deep and see if you can find the video you're looking for that way, and let me know if it works for you, or let me know if I need more detailed, more specific subcategories of playlists, okay? Oh, here's a popular topic: how best to photograph a typewritten page with your phone. So a lot of people are typecasting. They're either putting the picture of their typewritten page up on Facebook, or they're putting it on their blog, or they're putting it on One Type Page blog, or in some other way sharing it digitally. How do you make a good photograph of a typewritten page with a phone? That's a great idea. Let me know if you want me to make a video about that. So if you guys are not aware of this, older digital cameras are now becoming a thing. There's like a little revival in older cameras. And I happen to have two older cameras here. I don't have any new cameras, by the way, or even recent cameras. Actually, this camera here is probably considered new because they still sell it. But anyways, this is a Micro Four Thirds Panasonic Lumix G5. They have this G series. Pretty small camera. It has interchangeable lens. I'm using a little 14 millimeter so-called pancake lens, but actually they taste more like waffles. And this does not have an external mic jack. You can record video on it. It has a flip-out screen, the so-called flippy, tilty camcorder style screen that Panasonic pioneered with their still cameras. And on the other hand, you have the Ricoh GR3. This is probably the smallest APS-C sensor camera in the world. It's a point-and-shoot camera. It has a fixed 28 millimeter equivalent angle of view. It has just an LCD screen on the back. It does not have a tilty flippy screen. It does not have an electronic viewfinder, whereas the Panasonic does. So it's like an SLR in that sense. You're looking through the lens. So if you're in really bright daylight, like super thermonuclear bright, well, all sunlight is thermonuclear bright. Anyway, if you're in a situation where your LCD would be totally washed out in the daytime, you still have this. All that to say, you know, there's two cameras here that are pretty small, but there's a lot of differences. The main thing, they don't make the G5 anymore. They're up to the G9 now, I think, and the G85. Anyways, the later G-series cameras got bigger in size, so this is one of the smaller ones. And this one they still make, but these are over $900. They're almost $1,000 for this little guy. These you could probably get for a couple $100. Anyways, if you want me to do a bigger comparison about these kinds of older cameras, if you're interested in both still photography and video, we could talk about that. Let me know. Typewriter subject here: carbon film ribbons re-spooled onto manual typewriter spools. What kind of typewriters, what kind of manual typewriters could you use with carbon film ribbons, keeping in mind that if they're the single-use only carbon film ribbon, the ribbon has to be able to move at least the distance of a full character in order for it to have a good imprint on the next character. So not all of our manual typewriters do that, by the way. However, there were multi-strike carbon film ribbons in the cartridges for like IBM Selectrics. So maybe a multi-strike carbon film ribbon would be really good to spool up in a manual typewriter to give you more of that daisy wheel / Selectric quality of imprint. Hey, there's an interesting topic for a video. Okay, so a couple years ago, I kind of reduced my typewriter inventory a little bit, and now it's kind of grown up a little bit again, but maybe I should do another video about my current typewriter collection and the impressions I have of all the machines in my collection. Let me know if you like that idea. Okay, shift lock. Okay, almost all typewriters, the shift lock is on the left, except for like the Underwood 5s in that era where they had the shift lock on the right, which I really like, by the way. Almost all manual typewriters, when you want to clear the shift lock, you have to use the left shift key. But how many typewriters can you use the right shift key also to clear shift lock? There's an interesting topic. Okay. The typewriter database. Our friend Ted Monk has done a great service to the typewriter community with the database, and it's sort of crowdsourcing data because we, participants, are the ones that are gathering the data for the database. How do you use the typewriter database? And I know a lot of people have problems with it, with digging through and finding the right category and the right model and the right year and all that. We could do a video about that. I think that would be fun. Okay, here's a good one. I call it reproduction typing. Okay, you know, there are famous typewritten documents throughout the 20th century. It would be fun to find an old typewriter that has a very similar typeface and try to reproduce the exact document. You know, salutations, the way the margins were, the paragraphs, everything, right? Wouldn't that be fun? And it's not for the sake of forgery. It's about historical reenactment. Just like people reenact World War I or the U.S. Civil War, that kind of thing. This is like document reenactment, right? Even finding old paper to try to make it look as genuine as possible. And you know, there are a number of historic typewritten documents out there that are known to be fakes. Like, for instance, I'll give you the big category would be Majestic 12, the MJ-12 documents. So it was supposedly this secret group of 12 high-ranking officials in the United States government in the 1950s who conspired to conceal evidence about, yes, flying saucers. And they released all these typewritten, top-secret MJ-12 documents. Well, that would be kind of fun to type some of those up and get yourself a top-secret rubber stamp and boom, put that top-secret stamp at the top of the page. Anyways, historical reenactment of documents. That's an idea. How do I archive my typings? And I'll give you a big clue. These 3-ring binders off here to my right, I use 3-ring binders, but we could talk about archiving your typings. How about you don't have any more room at home for typewriters? It's getting out of hand, but you still like shopping for typewriters, just the thrill of the chase. How about window shopping for typewriters? Let's just go out, go to a thrift store, and look at typewriters, fiddle with them. Is it a piece of junk? Is it interesting? And don't buy them. Look at the price, right? Window shopping for typewriters. There's already a few blogs out there, by the way, that kind of do that. So you guys know that classic manual typewriters often did not have an exclamation mark. Commonly, you used the shifted 8 is the apostrophe, and then you use a period, and the normal way of doing that would be you hit the shifted 8, backspace, period. But if you hold down the space bar and the shift key, you could hit the 8 and then the period without having to use the backspace. But when you did that, it actually moved over, usually on most machines, it would move over an additional half character space before it started printing. So now you have the exclamation mark a little bit too far beyond the end of the sentence. But some typewriters only spaced on the space bar when you release the space bar. And in those typewriters, you could hold down the space bar, shift key, do 8 period and get a normally spaced exclamation mark. All that to say, we could go through a number of different typewriters in my collection and see which ones work best for the ad hoc way of doing an exclamation mark. Oh yeah, there was another one. Somebody had an Olympia Splendid or an Olympia SF, an Olympia Portable, and the back panel behind the back of the carriage, there's screws they needed. And they were asking me, where can I get those screws? Well, you may not find the exact style heads of the original ones, but you can certainly look at online screw fastener websites. I know in the United States there's a company called McMaster Carr, and there's like a microfasteners.com, places like that. You got to know the thread pitch, and if it's an Olympia like that, it's most likely metric, but you got to know the threads per millimeter or threads per centimeter. And you'll have to take the screw out and match it up against a known screw to figure the thread pitch out. But that's how you do it. You got to find the right pitch, the right size, and then go shop for the right style of head and the right length. Oh, and hey, I thought it would be fun to potentially do a Q&A video. I'd like to start doing question and answer videos. So if you think you'd like me to do those, drop a note down below. And if you have any questions that you'd like me to cover in a potential Q&A video, leave those down below too, and I'll do a Q&A video. That might be fun. So if any of these ideas resonated with you, you'd like to hear more about these topics, you'd like me to cover them in a full video, drop a note down below. I'd love to hear from you, and I really want to make the kind of videos that you want me to make and you want to watch. But as always, I wish you the very best. Stay creative. Have yourselves a great day. Bye-bye for now.